Good evening. Wow, 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 wow. What a full house we have today. Good evening, everybody. It's amazing to be here. Welcome once again to SaffronSACAP's Wednesdays voiceover talk show. As always, it's lovely to see your faces. My name is Gizo Giaco, and I am the SaffronSACAP Programs Director. I'm going to be one of your hosts this evening. And we have a very, very, very special evening today. And before we move into the evening, I would like to introduce my colleagues with Saffron. And I will ask Marcia to please unmute.
Good evening and welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight. We are looking forward to a filled, enlightening and impactful evening. I hope you'll stay with us for the rest of the evening and thank you for joining Saffron. Have a good evening.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Marcia. And also could I ask Yemi to please unmute and introduce yourself? Thank you so much.
Oh my, good evening everyone. This is Yemi Abulu Iyuntari, and actually as Auntie Amma likes to ask me to put my full name forward, it is Opeyemi Abulu Iyuntari, and I'm the Executive Director for SaffronSACAP. Welcome everyone. I don't know, it's good morning somewhere in the world somewhere, good afternoon, good evening, and you're all welcome. I will also be your host on Facebook Live this evening. So if you're on Facebook, please send your messages to me, talk to me, put up some likes, share, share, share. We have a lot to unfold this evening, and a lot of people need to know what's going on. So thank you so much for joining us, and have a pleasant evening. Yes.
Thank you so much to both of you, Marcia and Yemi. And today I would, it's a pleasure. It's an absolute pleasure to be able to introduce. Today it's Saffron SACAP in collaboration with the African Family Services and African Family Services based in Tower Hamlets, the London Borough of Tower Hamlets. Today's topic is internationally sustaining Black African families by AFS, including fostering and safeguarding. And today we have two very, very, very special people. We do a lot with them outside of the Zoom. And it's a pleasure, absolute pleasure to have both of these ladies on tonight. I'm going to first of all, what I'm going to do, I'm going to hand over to Jennifer, because Jennifer is going to hold the floor. So Jennifer, if you'd like to unmute yourself, because it would be amazing for you to introduce Auntie Amma and the talk. Saffron is going to hand over to you at this point in time, Jennifer. Jennifer Bagger is the AFS International Group member. Jennifer, thank you so much for coming on this evening. I have no doubt it's going to be an amazing evening. And I would love you to do the honors, please, to introduce for us the guest speaker. Yeah. So the floor is yours, Jennifer. Feel free.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. It's a real pleasure to be part of this meeting today, and I'm really happy to be here. My name is Jennifer Baggett, and I am African Families member. And as part of my membership, I'm also the person that part of the international group, as well as welfare, and part of the academic partners group. And Amma, who is the coordinator of the African Family Service and Life Achievement Award winner, is joining us today, and she will be doing a presentation as well. In terms of letting you know what we do at African Family Service, I have a presentation that I've put together. So I don't know if you've made me co-host so that I can put the presentation up so that you can, and I'll take it from there.
Okay, Jennifer, you
Yes,
can
you
go
can,
ahead. You've
Jennifer.
been made,
Pardon?
you can go ahead, Jennifer. You've been made co-host.
All right, thank you. I'm just trying to all right. Could you see the slides?
Not
No.
yet.
Was it? It might need to be open first and then shared.
Okay, just a minute. I'm just trying to get out of. I've opened it.
Okay, yeah. So maybe unshare, open, and then share again.
All right, there we go. Okay, so welcome to the Voice Over Talk Show hosted by Saffron in collaboration with African Families Service. And like I said, it's an honor to be here with you all this evening and for taking the time to join us. This evening is about internationally sustaining Black African families by AFS, including fostering and safeguarding. Next. I've introduced myself already, so I'm not going to say that again. So that's who I am. And I put this symbol up because it represents how passionate I am about learning. And as it says, he who does not know can know by learning. And when we share our knowledge, it is showing that we care. Another way of putting it is, as iron sharpens iron, one person influences another. And that's taken from Proverbs 27:17. This is the international group. Amma, Ananje, and Sheila Layton, and myself, and just introducing you to the international group as part of African Family Service. We were part of PAGE, Parental Guidance and Engagement by Emrys. And this is an example of the group of people who met together to put together a compendium of work that was carried out by Spain, Italy, France, Romania, and the UK. I put this up because it was very interesting that when we were in France and our first meeting, they introduced the concept of the bride's basket, which I thought it was very unusual because I only knew about children who were carrying the flower basket as children. But I then discovered, because they used it as a metaphor for putting gifts of knowledge and good practices of parenting for professional in the bride's basket. But then I did a little bit of research to find out what this really is. And then I found out that this metaphor that they used for the bride's basket, it actually came from Zimbabwe. And it holds a great significance to the Zimbabweans. It's a customary gift that is given to the bride by her mother in a new home as a symbol of family and ancestors who came before. And it was an acknowledgement of the history of those who came before, which is a prevalent, it's a prevalent practice, however, in African communities. So ancestry is very important to African communities. and giving credit to those that came before, a practice that we could do well with doing in the UK, remembering those that came before. Any imperfections in the basket, they're repaired by preserving the basket for future generations. So, you know, if you think of it in a metaphor, what we did as an international group was putting together something that could be passed on to others and perhaps be used for future generations. So I'm going to take you on a little tour of the countries that we visited and what we did in those countries. So the first one you can see is, who am I? Now, we went to Verona, and it was my first time being there, to be honest, but it was quite a pleasant experience. And it was something that I won't forget. Who am I is about recognizing the practitioner as a catalyst for change in assessment and the intervention of children. And this process is carried out by using, I'm not going to tell you, because if I tell you, then you might not want to come to future training. So I'm not going to go into it, but it really does help, because I could speak from personal experience being on the training and how that impacted me as a practitioner and supported my thinking and practice around working with children and young people. And I've also used it with young people, and they often, I think young people, when you use it with them, they tend to gravitate to it quite quickly because it's creative, and they like to express themselves in that manner where it's not you. That's what I'm going to say. I'm not going to say anything else. So following on from that, our visit in Verona, it came to the UK. And in this photo, we've got Professor Briggs, who's our academic partner, who was our academic partner, and Joe Finch, who's now taken over from Professor Briggs as our academic partner. And I'll go into that a little bit later. And we also have two Spanish consortium members who were part of the consortium and who we worked with in doing our presentation. So this basket of gifts, as bride's basket, what we did basically was to take it round to all the European consortium members' countries. And so like I said, France, Italy, Spain, UK, Romania, that's who we took it round to. So this UK, we did for the consortium members, they came and joined us in the UK, and we presented Black African families, safeguarding Black African families. And here, the participants have the opportunity to put things in context, looking at the history of Africans in Europe and the impact of history on their lives. You know, because what tends to happen, if we look at people outside of their context, we miss important details. Then we went off to Romania. In Romania, we had, this was the auditorium, and there were over 200 delegates. I'm sure I'm just being really, it was about 200 plus delegates that attended that conference. And I have to say that Romania pulled out all the stops because it was televised live, and the ministers attended that meeting. There was such support from the local community for this conference, which was really impressive. Now, here's Amma with these wonderful ladies who were part of the conference. And the story with them is that when they saw Amma in her traditional wear, they, during lunchtime, went home, changed into their traditional wear, which they're all handmade. The embroidery is all done handmade. And they had to take a photo with Amma. They were just so impressed. And I was really impressed with their authenticity, because they were just so genuine, so real, and they wanted to share and be part of the whole process and showing what they had. And it was the sharing of communities, the coming together of communities. I have to say that one of the things that I said about the Romanian consortium members is that it almost felt like we were cousins because they were just so a part of us, and it was just such a pleasant experience. In Spain, we did, Amma did a presentation, a paper on the aspect of neglect. I'm not talking about the neglect that we normally talk about in things. I'm just going to highlight an aspect of neglect that Amma focused on, and that was children being left at home. And this seemed to be something that was quite prevalent, that is quite prevalent about in the African community. And just to give an experience, as a student worker, social worker, many moons ago, light years away, this was one of my first cases. I came across a young person who was 13 years old at the time, a young boy, and he was left at home with his siblings, both of them under the age of 10. So I did my visit with my then practice teacher, and we went to the home because there were complaints from school, from other sources that he was getting into trouble. And we went to visit the family home. When we got there, they were at home alone. We waited for the father to return, the parents to return, but nobody came. So then we made another appointment to visit again. And then when we visited the father, he was a single parent and he had to work. And so that was the reason why the children were left at home alone. So, you know, that was neglect. So what we did at that time, well, he didn't have any other support network in the local community or in this country. So what we did was put in services to support the family. Then we did the Tree of Life in Spain as well, because we presented different tools in and that we added to the bride's basket. And so each part of the tree represents something. And one of the things that struck me when we did this exercise in Spain is how rooted they were in their values and what they believed as a people, as a community, was very, very strong. And when we went through the exercise, you could see from the drawings and from their explanation, how they spoke, they had very, very strong roots and values and traditions. So, as I said, each part of the tree represents something. And, you know, it was just so fascinating for me to observe the strong sense of valuing their culture. I'm not going to go through and explain what each part represents, because I think it would be useful for you to have the experience of working through the Tree of Life. And I believe sometime in the future, that's something that Amma and the international team could definitely work with you on if you're interested. But it adds value to work, because when you're working with individuals and in groups, you can use this in groups. You get a real strong sense of people, and it helps them as well to work through different aspects of the tree, which represents different things, to help them to work through some traumatic events in their life. Now, in Spain, we also used a culturegram, and this sustains families and access families from a culturally based perspective, using the culturegram to assess and the history and culture of the family. But I'm not going to go any further into that. But this is one time when you will hear a little bit more, because Amma is going to go in and expand a bit more about the culturegram. Here we are in Italy, and as part of our tour of the European countries, we worked in collaboration with others. And here you see that Amma's working with Diego from Italy, and they're doing a joint presentation. And so that's just to give you a flavor of the work that we did there. We also did the two houses in Padova, and the first house influences the second house. And the first house is the place of origin, wherever the family or the child comes from. And the second house is where they are currently. They may be in the UK, they may be in France, Italy, Spain, and it helps to look at the impact of how the first house impacts on the second house. And this is the compendium. You can see that we put together PAGE, which means parental guidance and engagement, working with EMRAS. And this is a document, the compendium, that was put together by all the European countries, where all the tools are put together. And at any point, if you would like a copy of the compendium, you can certainly ask African Family Service for that. And as you can see, the Kentiko office joining all of them together. Here, you see this is Professor Rosanna Sima from Italy. And she wrote a book called Through the Eyes of Pedagogy of Meeting. And she dedicated a chapter on the African Family Service in her book. So, you know, that is such an honor. Then, as you know, we all have been impacted by COVID, but the international work didn't stop happening. Like most of us, we all moved online. And so there was a conference that was held in Moldova. We were really hoping, we were looking forward to going to Moldova. This is just a scenic view that I got off the internet of Moldova. And it was an online conference for 2 days. And this is the title of that conference was Advocacy for Qualitative Parental Education, Challenges and Perspectives. Amma presented a paper in that conference called The Process of Policy Development implementation, and monitoring parenting support policy in the United Kingdom. And that, I would say, was a very, very interesting perspective on the work that is going on in the UK. This conference was attended by the international group members, and it was a very unusual thing, because when we started to speak as part of the international conference, you could see all the participants online taking photos, because out of 400 delegates, we were the only Black people that were present. So it seemed like it was a novelty to see 3 Black people, but that was our experience. But it was very positive, and I'll explain a little bit more, because there I explained about the work that we did, and I will do that soon. So this part, I just want to say that social work covers 3 areas, and it's micro social work, meso social work, and macro social work. And the African Family Service covers all aspects of it. I would just like to encourage all social workers or who to work beyond just the micro one-to-one work, which is just one-to-one working with families, but also to expand their range to working nationally, which is meso, and macro, which is internationally. Because then we could expand our range of influence and not just hold it to ourselves, but to expand it, and so that others can benefit from the knowledge. And and that is what I really appreciated about the international work that we did, the exchange of knowledge, the practitioners' work and the academicians' work, all coming together, looking at ways of supporting and helping migrant children and their families. So in terms of the work that we do, the international group is headed up by Amma, and I've just gone through the international work that we have done, and we will continue to do, because it just doesn't stop here. We'll continue with the work. The national group is headed by Sheila. So this is all the themes and streams within the African Family Service. And national group is headed up by Sheila Layton, who I have seen on camera. She's here with us today, and she makes the connections or let us know of any national activities that we could become involved in. And we worked closely within recent times with Scotland, and that work continues on. The Academic Partners Group, which I told you that Professor Briggs was part of that. He was the one that from the University of East London, but now he has left, and we've got Joe Finch, who is who we work with together. And what we do here is to provide a strategic direction, leadership, working in partnership, and sharing research and literature. And so that is the work that we do in the Academic Partners Group. Moving on, a national child abuse linked to faith. That is a national working party which looks at issues to do with children who have been impacted by beliefs, practices that impact children. So, for example, where children are considered to be witches, breast ironing, these are the kind of aspects that we look at in the national forum. But it also, in terms of the UK, what's happening now, we're mapping and looking to see and trying to put it on the map, as it were, if I can say, in the minds of social workers to be thinking about these kind of situations that could occur in families, so that we can support and safeguard those children. Then we have the Black Migrant Advisory Group, which is a group of people that come across from different bodies to look at issues to do with migrants. And that is headed up by Immense Tollett. Then we have the steering group, which is the lead person for that is Iris. And this is an overarching cross of managers, practitioners, and community leaders. It includes health, education, children, adolescents, and mental health service. They're involved, and church leaders of worship. They're all involved in the steering group, looking at issues to do with children. Then welfare group. I mean, I am the person that heads up and leads the welfare group, and what generally to do, I'm looking over the overall well-being of the African Family Service link workers, the members of the group. So if somebody is ill or whatever, I will be the person that will make contact, because it's important for us to show that we care and that we are working together for one cause. Then we have Rini, who is the lead person for the publicity group, and this is expanding our profile through the media, and that is Rini's role. And I hope that's given you a flavor of the work. We're very busy in the African Family Service. I hope that's given you an overview of the work, and I hope I've whetted your appetite about what international work involves and sustaining families, because it's the work such as African Family Service does, putting African families on the map, as it were, because sometimes we could be overlooked, or you know, we're not invited to the table, as it were. But by us as an African Family Service, what we're doing are really promoting the needs of young people and their families, and also ensuring and filling the gaps in knowledge, working with families, filling those gaps, also safeguarding children. So this is an overview, and I hope you understand a bit more of our work and the work that we did internationally and what we do nationally, as well as in our local authority. And now I just want to say thank you to you for listening, and over to Amma.
Ngozi, are you ready for me?
I'm very ready for you, Auntie Amma.
Okay, thank you very much. I am immensely humbled and honored to be part of what I call this village today. But before I start, let me acknowledge some very important people who have joined us today, because I'm here to support me. My mother, Professor Jane Lafontaine. Mother, you are in the house. I salute you, and I'm blessed to have you as a mother. Thank you, Professor Jane Lafontaine. Mother, are you there?
Do you hear me, Mother? Yes, she's nodding. Thank you. You are mute. Thank you. Also in the house is Professor Joe Finch. Also to support me. There she is, Joe.
Hello.
Yeah. Thank you for joining us. I'm very pleased to have you all.
Very
And
pleased.
in the house is the link workers of the African Family Service. Please, if you are here, can you unmute and say hi, please? Link workers of the African Family Service.
Hi, see you later.
Right, I'm Elfrith Reynolds. I'm supporting African Family Service in relation to National Working Group linked to faith and belief.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
And now let me commence and draw out some key issues from where Jennifer left off. Jennifer did mention the who I am too. And I would like to make some comments on that. Who indeed are we? So in my training workshops, I get delegates to ascertain who indeed they are. That allows them to intervene and assess others by exploring with them their name, their role in the community, their cultural identity, and their work and profession. But the methodology is you do not use words or letters or numbers. And so why do I do this? I get them to explore with me spirituality. The term spirituality lacks a definite definition. However, here are some common themes associated with spirituality. I start with this because Professor Muti is of the view that Africans are notoriously religious. And so it's key to the understanding of who one is. So I put forward these definitions for the delegates to ascertain which of these that they can connect with. The idea of a process of self-discovery and learning from not only who you are, but also who you want to be. A higher power, whether rooted in religion, nature, or some kind of unknown essence. Spirituality, whilst it does not necessarily solve or reach conclusion, often embraces the concept of searching and moving forward in a direction of meaning, purpose, and direction of life. The challenge of reaching beyond your current limits. This can include keeping an open mind, questioning current beliefs, or trying to better understand others' beliefs. A connectiveness to yourself and others. Spirituality is personal, but it's also rooted in being connected with others and the world around you. This connection can facilitate your finding your place in the world. And also by doing this, I encourage them to acknowledge the journey, their own journey, consciously and unconsciously, and having a greater understanding of the different aspects of their past and present experiences and its influence of that journey. The knowledge and ownership of oneself, an understanding of one's own natural abilities and limitations, and an insight into one's own character, motives, and goals, and the growth of wisdom, and a clear understanding of self-actualization and meaningfulness. So how to self-actualize by continuously assessing yourself, your motives, your willingness to change and taking responsibilities, cherishing your uniqueness, realizing your dreams, accepting your fallibilities, and learning from others. Looking for the good in others and assessing your progress as you go along. The one key thing that I ask delegates is about their name and how they were parented. The connection or disconnection of their own name, as it has an impact and meaning and can vibrate, especially with others. And very often I find people going to Google to find out their names. The dominant or marginalized stories in our experiences. Stories are important. It is the power of ideas, what some call a frame, worldview, or mental cap. Dominant stories can become ingrained or widely accepted within a culture that it appears to represent the reality. And that tool also encourages professionals to independently attempt to comprehend their own personality, emotions, and behavior without the aid of another person. Now, I won't go into this tool any more than that because I ran a training course on the who I am, as Jenny said. So I'll leave it at that. But the other key point that Jenny wanted me to address was the culturegram. Assessing Black African children from a culturally based perspective. Now, I had to formulate this tool for the consortium members in the various countries that Jenny had spoken about. So I find myself doing a literature research. And I was struggling because I couldn't find anyone who has done anything of that sort in relation to Black African children. So Professor Briggs, who supervised all the papers that I write or wrote in relation to social work internationally, advised me to move my research wider. And so I did a worldwide research and I came across Dr. Elaine Congress, who finds herself in the predicament that I was in, but has done a culturegram for Hispanic Americans. And so looking at that, I was able to formulate my own culturegram to support and help practitioners in their intervention and assessment of Black African families. But one should not be prescriptive. It is also always imperative to ascertain the narrative and experiences of the families that you are working, so that you don't overgeneralize and stereotypical view of Africans. Because the conceptualization of issues, problematic human behavior, health, well-being, trauma, and the resulting strategies to address these should be grounded in the cultural view, worldview, principles, customs, and practice of people's daily and historically lived experience. Now, the tool, the ascertainment of the meaning of the names of the children or families that we work with. Do these children or families have an understanding of the significance of their name and its impact on their development? How and why were the names given? I also tried to get delegates in these workshops to have an understanding of what the concept of the two houses is about, which Jennifer touched on. And it starts with a clear understanding of one's history. Because very often I would ask African social workers on my training workshop, have you heard about the conference that took place in Berlin, Germany in November 1884 to February 1885? And very often than not, one has not got a clue. An African social worker. So it is significant that we understand our own history. So in developing this concept, it was my view that it will help them to search for the knowledge of the first house. Because I believe that this knowledge will allow the practitioners to locate accurately the family's country of origin, how and why that came about, and list the contents in that house. This include the history, cultural, political, social, spiritual, yes, and economic, formal and informal systems of that particular country. It also includes, or should include, the personal history of the family concerned. The second house symbolizes the family's current residence. This should include the family's understanding of the statutory systems, the formal and informal systems, including their role and responsibility in this house. The degree to which the parent tried to recreate the first house while coping with the differences they find in the second house may be an important indication of any stress they might be suffering. And this was an advice that I got from my mother, Professor Jane LaFontaine. It is also important to ascertain the transitions of these families, whether they moved from their country of origin to Italy, to France, and ended up here, or they live in Tower Hamlet and moved to Westminster and went back to Hounslow and wherever and whenever. Why they were running around like that? What makes them move from borough to borough or country to country? Is important, because if they are running away from an estranged husband or a husband who has caused them abuse, then you should know that when this man turns up in the school, even though the court has ordered that the man goes anywhere near the family, the teachers don't give the child to the man, or vice versa. The carers or parents' understanding of the law is crucial, as a lack of understanding of the children can lead to child protection concern. Parents or carers need to have a clear understanding of the values in the first house that may or may not conflict with the values in the second house. Because the impact of the first house on the second house should not be minimized, particularly as it may affect the parenting of the children. The connection or disconnection between the two houses. The two houses are not completely separate. The first house exercises a strong influence on the second house. Additionally, a disconnection between the two houses can cause ill health or even mental illness. Identifying the language that is spoken in the house between the adults and between the children. Are the children able to communicate in their parents' language, or are they isolated in their own house? Because when their parents are communicating, they haven't got a clue. Now, why have the parents or carers not encouraged bilingualism or multilingualism? Was this done consciously or unconsciously by the parents or carers? Because research now indicates that bilingualism benefits the children cognitively and emotionally. You need to ascertain whether this is a matriarchy or patriarchy household and who holds the power in the family. As a man from the patriarchy background may feel undermined or uncomfortable in a society where women hold more power than men. Legal issues. This is a very sensitive subject, as some parents may not have the right to be in the second house. It can also limit access to services, and this may have an impact on the children. Health issues. What are the carers' view in relation to health? Do they take a medical or spiritual view of health, particularly children with disability? Because once in my role as an expert witness assessor, I had to assess a family where the man has extramarital affairs and I had a disabled child with the woman. And the woman had died of HIV and AIDS. And so the social worker was to assess whether the woman in the matrimonial home would be happy to look after this disabled child. And the social worker had recommended to the court that in her view, the child should be given to the woman in the matrimonial home. Now, when I did the expert witness assessment, I asked the woman, are you happy for this disabled child to be among your own children in your home? Are you happy for that your husband has had an extramarital affair and that you are willing to embrace this child as your own home, your own? She looked at me and she said, Auntie Emma, I don't know why you bother yourself, because this child is not human. So my recommendation to the court was that there needs to be some education before this child should be placed in the matrimonial home. And I did not agree with the social worker's recommendation that the child should be placed there. So it is crucial that we have an understanding of the belief systems of this family. Additionally, if the family is of the view that the mental illness of their children or the child or they themselves is as a result of a curse in the family, then you need to have a clear understanding of the reality and the perspective of the parent or carer with such a view, how you intervene, how you go about your intervention or strategic plan in your work with the family, how you deconstruct the mindset of the individuals. Do the carers or parents see children with disability as normal or abnormal? It is imperative that you do an exploration with these carers or parents, particularly with children with disabilities, because that will give you a clear understanding of their ability to parent a child with disabilities. The carers' current employment and whether or not there are limited funds in the household, because a lack of funds can also create tension. And ascertain whether or not they have attended any courses or any learning program since they arrived in their second house. I cannot stress the relevance of spirituality, religion, and beliefs. And I will reiterate again by quoting Professor Muti that Africans are notoriously religious. So when I received the bundle for an expert witness assessment, I look to find out whether the social worker has assessed the parents' belief system and how that impacts on the caring of their children. Their understanding of oppression, discrimination, and racism. Because an understanding of this would help them to have some strategies to help them to survive in sometimes what may be a hostile presenting phenomenon. And assess their connections in the local community, their support system, whether it's the church or any families in the first house or wherever. Because if they have a strong support system, then any stresses that arises will be collectively dealt with. If they belong to a particular church, it may be useful that sometimes you go with them to find out the location and the leaders of these churches which support the families that you are dealing with. Names. Names are very significant. The connection and disconnection of one's name and its meaning as names impact, particularly on children, and can impact on their development until adulthood. So in a nutshell, that was what I presented to the compendium that was put together by the consortium members of the 5 European countries that we worked with. But in doing all these, I was very mindful of what Dr. Kwame Owusu-Bimpe told me about the word which has the power of behaving like a chameleon, because it shows itself in different forms and shapes. And as we went around these countries, we came across many, many chameleons of that nature. So I thank you all very much for listening. I don't know, Gis, if you want us to take a few questions before we allow MDAT to come in and sell whatever it is that he wants to say, and then we can take questions from the floor.
Sure.
I'm married with 1 and 2 houses.
I beg your pardon?
Say that again.
Pastor Clement.
Yeah.
Can you repeat yourself, please?
It's gone on mute.
I'm coming. Hold on. You know what's wrong with this thing? Oh.
We can hear you.
You can hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. What of those people who are the next generation? I think there's a problem. They are not getting the first house and the second house, because we have the whole generation and the new generation, and I believe that we should rapport together so that they have something to leave behind for their next generation.
Yeah, I think that's a very, very valid point, Pastor Clement. It's a very valid point, but very often I come across these teenagers and I ask them, which country do your parents come from? And they would tell me, I know they are from Africa, but I don't know which one. So that is a start. I think the adults need to know who they are and be able to support these young ones that are growing in this country, because they do need help.
Yeah, they need help.
And make no mistake about that, because they do. They do need a lot of support and help.
Yes. Thank
you. Okay. Go on.
Thank you.
I think my question is okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Mr. Clement. If there's anybody else, I know that there's a question that had been asked whilst the presentation was going on, and that was from Lily. And Lily's asking, I don't know if Lily is on. So, Lily, are you on, or I don't know if they've gone off?
Yes, I'm here.
Brilliant. Can you please ask
Good
your
evening.
question so that you can do it justice? Yeah. Good evening.
Good evening. The question was, let me just get, because there was a few questions that I had with regards to bilingualism affecting the children's emotional development. And you mentioned another area of development. So I wasn't sure if you were saying that it's bilingualism affected a child negatively or positively.
Historically, we were made to believe that if we teach these children our language, they will struggle in learning the English language. But a lot of research has come now, and you can get more information on the internet, that in fact, if we teach them our language cognitively, they will develop more. But in some households, the mistakes have already been done. Because of the impact of the history, they have come from an inferiority complex point of view and have felt that their language was inferior, and therefore they should teach the children the English language and not their own language. So some damage has been done in some households, but currently families need to know that it is okay to teach them your own language, and it helps them both cognitively and emotionally.
Thank you.
Did you have any more questions, Lily? Or was that okay?
I did, but I can't remember now. If I remember, I will type it in.
No problem, no problem. And if there's anybody that is just joining, you know, today is an extension of our May topic in sustaining families. And today we're looking at sustaining African families, because that is our niche. So for those of you who could possibly just be joining, today we are talking, we've had a talk on the from an international perspective, and we want to put it out there because obviously this is in collaboration, Saffron in collaboration with the African Family Services, and we, Saffron, are pleased to announce Saffron's African Caribbean Family Services, which we have opened in Gillingham in Kent. We have opened our Saffron African Caribbean Center, which is called SaffronSACAP. So lots more information on that each week as we come out. We will be releasing a lot more.
I wanted to add something.
Okay, go ahead, please.
Auntie Amma was saying about the language. Oh, sorry, my name is Mami Bosno Apiaminka. I wanted to know, how do we get this information across? Because it looks as if the that point was a very difficult, even for me in here. I've been talking about to people, parents, about this thing for a long time. So I am so interested, and I'm happy that this message is going across. So how can we get it across to the very basic people?
Madam Apiaminka.
Yes, please.
Your name
Auntie
tells me that you are a Ghanaian. Am I right?
Yes, yes, please.
Have you heard of the Asensodie called Sankofa?
Yeah.
You know what that means?
Yeah.
Right. It's never too late to go back and learn.
Yeah.
So if you are one of those, or you know one of those, who had felt inferior and ashamed by their own language, and one needs to understand one's history to know why that is that, and that you had felt that somehow the English language was superior and never taught your own children the language, it's never too late to sang Kofa. Are you with me?
Yes, please.
So you do that by having an understanding of the societal systems that are in this country, the informal one in particular, how they operate, and move from church to a village association to a town association, and spread the message, because there's a colossal amount of work to be done.
Yeah, I know.
And no one person can do it.
I know.
Everybody else joining us
to get
together,
involved.
we'll be able to do it.
Thank you, Auntie.
And thank you so much. It's an open floor, so if there's anybody else that has a question or has
I do.
Yeah, okay. Oh, Lily, go ahead.
Yeah, I remember the question now. So the talk that you gave, ma'am, was really, really informative, and you listed essential areas that assessors would need to know if they are assessing children from African background. However, they're not trained that way. They don't have the skills to meet the things that you were saying that they need to look into. So how do you think that assessors can be skilled, or social workers can be upskilled in this way? What do you think the process would be, or what would you suggest?
Right. One manager once told me, Amma, there are so many cultures in this country. So how can we go about learning all these many cultures? And I say, this is a way of just getting out of working from a culturally competent perspective. You cannot, in your social work career, hold every single culture in the United Kingdom case in your caseload. But you would have a caseload of some ethnic group. And so what I say to you is, you look at the caseload you are holding and you search and acquire the knowledge to work with the caseload that you are holding. That's how you develop your skills and knowledge in working with the families that are within your caseload. And it's for this particular reason that I ran the 2 days safeguarding Black African children and families here in the UK. And I think Pastor Clement has attended the 2-day training that I'm talking about. And this 2-day training, in fact, the consortium members attended the training in the University of East London when they came. And so the training is open everywhere, nationally and internationally. And the next one coming on is in June. So I'm urging practitioners and social work to be responsible for their own personal and professional development. You don't sit down for your training department to search for the knowledge and skills for you, because only you know the skills and knowledge that you require in your interventions and assessment of the caseload that you have. And you are the one that will make the request. You are the one that should be searching for the skills and knowledge.
Okay, that's okay. Does that answer your question,
Okay.
Lily?
Is that okay, Lily?
Yes,
Okay.
thank you very
Yeah.
much.
I've got somebody with her hand up. Adeyinka's had her hand up
Go.
for quite a long time. So Adeyinka, would you like
Yeah,
to?
hi. Hi, how are you?
Fine, good evening. How are you?
Good evening. I'm fine. From a linguistic background, I just wanted to speak to learning the language and the culture. And I mean, I don't live or work in the UK, but I know that part of social work is to understand case by case, family by family, culture by culture, the people that you've been sent to. That means you probably have to do a bit of study to understand what you're doing. But what I really want to say is this, that a lot of us in my generation, I'm sure Yemi knows, we were brought up to speak our local language and the English language. And it took a while for some of us to separate the cultures. So there was a bit of confusion, and I see that that might happen with a lot of young people, particularly at this time if they're migrating, moving to a new environment. So you've been exposed to, like me, been exposed to the Yoruba language and culture, where you kneel down to greet the adults and you don't look them in the face when you're talking to them. And then you find yourself in another environment where you don't have to kneel down, maybe at best you curtsy, and you can look the people in the face, because if you don't, you'll be considered timid. And that tends to, it affects a lot of children who are coming to the UK, and it confuses children who are maybe in Nigeria or whatever environment. I just wanted to pitch in that a lot of times it causes a lot of confusion. However, when a child has mastered his own language, it actually does help his mastery of the English language better, and his expression, even his ability to write, is better. So I also think that what we need to be doing is creating awareness and letting parents know that it is good to expose the children to the two languages and the culture, and the social worker needs to know this. I don't know if what I've said has anything to
well, were you asking a question or making a presentation?
I'm making a presentation. I wasn't asking.
Can you stick to questions, please?
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Can you?
I thought the floor was open for us to make.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your contribution, because it emphasizes what I've just said, and in fact also helped Lily, who wanted to understand how we came to be where we are now. Thank you. But can you tell us who you are first and then ask your question? Thank you.
Okay, so if there's anybody else that has a question, please indicate by raising your hand, introducing yourself, and asking your question. Thank you.
Oh, Gates, I've just seen someone in the village now, and I'd like to acknowledge this person.
Sure, go ahead.
Dr. Angela Burns. I acknowledge you, ma'am, and I salute you. Thank you very much for being with us today. Thank you.
Thank you, Auntie. As always, it's so inspiring to learn from you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Yes, Gates.
That's fine. So the floor is still open. If we have any more questions, we're still following up from our program for May, and that is Sustaining African Families. And today's program is in collaboration with the African Family Services from Tower Hamlets. So if you do have any questions, please indicate by raising your hand. It would be nice to introduce yourself, and then we can put names to the faces. So please indicate if you have a question. It's quite a lot of you, so I am checking as I go along.
Gigs, people can come back to questions as well, but if nobody is coming up, we will give the space to MDAD.
Yeah, we will come back to questions
for a few campaign that he wants to make in relation to fostering. But whilst MDAD is doing that, if people have more questions, they can jot it down. That's and we can come back to it.
Okay, Mr. MDAD, when you're ready, the floor is yours.
Thank you.
Good evening.
You listening me? Hello?
Yes, we hear you.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
Hello, friend.
Good evening, good morning, good day, good afternoon, because it's an international event. So I don't know who is joining from which area, day area or night area. So, and thank you very much. And it's really good to see you after a long gap, although virtually, not physically. My dearest Auntie Amma, in office, we sit on the same floor, and Auntie and I go to the office early in the morning. And I used to say her good morning every day. I also deeply miss Auntie's pastors group. Anyway, my name is MDAD Talukdar, and I'm the Community Resource Officer for Tower Hamlets Social Services Fostering and Adoption Service. And my main role is to promote fostering within the wider communities of Tower Hamlets and surrounding areas. But since this is an international forum, so I would respectfully say that this is not only bounded in Tower Hamlets. Anybody from any part of the world can be benefited from my discussions on fostering, because more or less everywhere, the rules, regulations, and system, that's same. Anyway, many of you in this forum might know me, and I'm pleased to give you good news that in 2019, Her Majesty the Queen Elizabeth has kindly awarded me with an MBE for my outstanding contributions in promoting fostering and adoption within the wider communities. Sorry, I'm not like to beating my own drum. What I want to say that Auntie Emma and her pastors group and her African Family Service and other various churches, they have supported me hugely, who is promoting the needs of fostering within the Black communities since many years. Therefore, I must acknowledge my salute and respect to Auntie Emma and her team and her pastors group. I hope my colleague, one of our dedicated foster carers, Veronica, she is with me. And as you know, that fostering, this is not a new thing. Historically, I think that it has started before mankind started on Earth, because within monkeys and other animals, they also do these things, fosterings. Anyway, fostering means when a child can't live with his or her birth parents due to various physical, mental, emotional, or sexual abuses, or that parent got various family disputes such as family violence, divorce, separation, involvement with criminal activities such as drug or others, then police or social services intervene and remove that child or children from that family and keep them with a decent, loving and caring family who can protect that child or children within a legal caring system. You will be astonished to know that each year in the UK, over 65,000 children are looked after by social services. And in Tower Hamlets, we look after around 300 to 400 children each year. Out of them, over 35% are from Bangladeshi background, around 30% from white background, and around 13% from Black background. As per law, children should be placed with matching families, which means Black for Black, Muslims for Muslims, Christians for Christians, white for white, as much as possible to upkeep the culture, religion, language, diet, heritage, etc. I have attended so many programs of Auntie Emma, and she always mentioned a couple of things seriously. That's to upkeep the roots. And another one, that's her two-house theory. So to keep these roots, that's a very vital thing. And the government of this country, they also appreciate. And that's why they like to place the children with similar families, similar backgrounds, similar religions, etc. But sadly, we don't have enough foster carers from Black backgrounds, for which on many occasions we have to place Black children with non-Black families, which means that child might lose his or her fundamental rights. I respectfully remember a quote of a highly dedicated pastor in West London that children belongs to community, not to government or social services. Therefore, in any problem with a child, our community should come forward first to safeguard that child. I also believe this quote, and we must safeguard our vulnerable children. But how? For looking after these vulnerable children, we need over 200 foster carers, especially in Tower Hamlets, Borough. But you'll be astonished to know that we got only around 125 carers, which means there is a great shortage of carers. Therefore, we have to place the children to other areas such as Essex, Sussex, Midlands, Manchester, etc., causing various problems for social services, as well as for the parents, relatives, and of course, those children. Sometimes we have to place children with families who are not from the same backgrounds as the children, such as Christian children with a Muslim family, or a white child with a Black or Asian carers, or other way around. Therefore, we need carers from Tower Hamlets and surrounding areas, and especially from Christian background, for providing better care for our looked after children. We can go up to 15 miles radius of Tower Hamlets Council. So, if you are over 20 years old, having indefinite leave to remain in the UK, you have good health, clean police record, have time to offer, have a separate room if you look after a child over the age of 2 years, and if you are highly motivated to look after a vulnerable child who is not yours. As you know, nothing is free in this country. For looking after our children, we pay a weekly allowance of 385 to 490 pounds per week per child, depending the child's age and needs. And this is totally tax-free. If you are on any social security benefit, be sure this money will not affect in any way, because officially this is allowance, not an income. As a human being, personally, I feel that it's a religious, social, humanitarian responsibility for all of us to help these vulnerable children, because they belong to us, I mean the community, not the social services. Therefore, please think yourself and kindly consider fostering. If you can't do this, still you can help us. Please discuss and publicize the needs within your family, relatives, friends, and colleagues who might got something to offer for our looked after children. As these children are ours, we need to extend our help and support for them. We need carers for all age groups, and in particular teenagers. If you need any further information, please contact Auntie Emma, because she knows my contacts and we work on the same floor and under the same services. And she will guide you how to contact me or my service. As I said, that today I got one of my dedicated foster carers who has been fostering children for many years. Her name is Veronica Graham. She got very practical experience about fostering and its role. So please listen to her. Afterwards, if you have any question, please let me know or let Auntie Emma know. Thank you again very much for listening to me, and I hope you would kindly consider fostering. If you can't, please help us to publicize the needs within your friends, relatives, and colleagues. Thank you, Auntie Emma. Thank you, host, and thank you all other listening to this. God save our children. God give us the ability to look after our vulnerable children, and God save us from this corona disaster. Thank you.
Thank you, Mdad Talukder. Thank you very much. That was an amazing.
Thank you, Mdad. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And yes, a clarion call out to the African community. You know, our children need us. So I think it's something we need to start thinking about and having the conversations, and not just having the Zooms. I keep saying that. So thank you. And yes, congratulations on your MBE. That's amazing. So well done. Well done. Okay. And you said Veronica, yeah? Okay.
Yeah, Veronica Graham.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hello, Veronica.
Hello. I'm Veronica Graham, been fostering, teenagers for Tower Hamlet for the last 14 years. which I've got I've foster children from different cultures and different background. Yeah, I normally do teenagers because, you know, I get on very well when looking after teenagers. At times, it is very challenging, and at the same time, it's very rewarding, you know, because teenagers come with a lot of problem and issues, some of them, but I work with them and support them, you know, and a lot of teenagers come into my care and they stay. I've got at the moment one girl from African background, and she's been living with me for the last 3.5 years, and she become a stay-put young person now, and she's, you know, still enjoy living with me. She's going to college, and at the moment she's hoping to get a job, and when she's 21 she will get her own accommodation. I've normally look after 3 teenagers. I've got at the moment I've got that stay put young person who is 20 years old, and I've got a 17.5-year-old mixed race, and then I've got a 15-year-old Bangladeshi girl, you know, in my care at the moment. As I said, it's very rewarding, and I've been doing it for 14 years. And I've got a few people to become foster care over the years. And as Dad said, we're still looking, you know, for more people to join, because even though it's challenging, it's very rewarding, you know, and it's a pleasure working with the young people. And especially to see when they leave my care, they excel and do well. And a lot of them come back, you know, and visit me, and then we go out together and do things together. Yeah, so please, anyone is listening, to consider fostering and working with Tower Hamlet is very rewarding and very good. I get on with my social worker, and I've been working with MDAD for quite a while now, and we all work well together. So please consider fostering. Yeah, because there's loads of children out there need your support. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that, Veronica. Thank you.
Thank you.
Over you to you, Yemi.
Yeah.
No, I think Auntie Amma still got the floor.
Okay.
Go on, Auntie Amma, unless you want us. D, you got a question? Okay. No, you're just raising your hand. Okay. Pastor Clement. Sorry, is it a pastor or reverend? I'm sorry if I got that wrong. Unmute yourself, sir.
Yeah. I think I will have 2 questions.
Okay.
The first one is to our brother. Then the second one is to Sister Veronica. The first question that I have for our brother is, there is, I think there is a lot of deficit, I can say, especially to Africa, maybe African lady or something, because this to me, it's a ministry, it's a great thing to do. I don't know which area I'll be able to help them, especially those who might be interested in taking this role. I don't know what plan they normally have, because they are deficit. Then the second one, great work to Sister Veronica. I don't know how you're able to cope with teenagers because I know them like my finger. God will continue to help you. And I hope you also will be able to rob us from other people, women or young people who might be interested in doing it. So because it's a lot. So I just feel for our brother and I feel for Veronica. Immediately they were saying this, it's huge. So, okay. And that's what I have.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't know if anybody would like to answer. Mdad or Veronica, floor is yours.
Well, as I said before, you know, it is very challenging at times. But once a young person come into my care, I work together with them. I let them feel as if they are a part of my family. I introduce them to my family, you know, because I've got 2 grown-up children and grandchildren myself. And then a lot of the young people engage with my family. Some want to go and do their own things, but, you know, we just support them in whatever support, and then we work together. And it's very rewarding. Yeah.
Thank you so much. And if, you know, if there is anybody that would like more information, I guess if you can share your details in the chat so that at least there'll be some sense of continuity after the Zoom. Yeah. So if anybody is interested in fostering or getting more information, and Dad, I don't know if you can share your details, and Veronica as well. Pop it in the chat.
Yeah, that'd be fine.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, so I would like to pass to you, Auntie Amma, before we round up. If you have anything you'd like to say, just before I do that, I think Dee says, I think some families who may want to foster may feel they would. Dee, do you want to unmute and ask that? Yeah, go ahead.
All right, good evening, everybody. I was just thinking about the fact that, and I'm also speaking for myself because I have considered this. I mean, because my children are older and things like that. But I feel that sometimes there may be a little bit of hesitancy with fostering because maybe of the criteria that you have to meet, or even that there you might be considering, okay, what kind of space do I need? You know, what does the child that needs to be fostered, what kind of space do they need, and what is the criteria in order to foster a child? For example, would it be possible for someone who is a lone parent, you know, to foster a child? And also, what are the how strict is the process in fostering children? So I think the information is just needed to understand better on what the criteria is for fostering.
Yeah, sure. Thank you for this question.
Okay.
I should say lengthy answer. Anyway, in short, I can say that it takes around 5 to 6 months time to complete the process, because if you think yourself that if you got a child and for any reason you can't look after that child with you, but if I want to look after that child, then you must think who I am, what is my character, how I'll be able to look after your child. So that's why when we consider anyone's interest in fostering, we have to look after all his or her background. That's why police check, health issues, character, reference, many other issues. And health issue does not mean that if you have some common issues like back pain, that is very common in this country, or diabetes, that's very common in this country. So that's not the big issue. Big issue, if that affects in your own life or family life, then the question would be how far you will be able to look after a child, since you can't look after yourself properly. And for space issues, as I mentioned, that if you look after a baby up to the age of 2, then you can keep the baby in your bedroom. But if you look after a child over the age of 2 years to 17 plus, sometimes it goes to 21 years. So in that case, you'll have to have a separate room because the reason behind this, we don't know the background of the child's lifestyle, character, and others. So we don't want your child or children to be, destroyed by the misbehavior of their child. That's why we like to keep our child, foster child, in a separate room. And I think he also mentioned about lone parents or single people. Yes, there's no restriction about single, divorced, separated. No worry about these things. Even no religious restrictions about this, or even your, people's applicants' sexual orientation. Whatever the background, they can apply for this. And definitely we will try our best to consider all the aspects of your interest, because we, first of all, we need someone who is very much willing to support, help a vulnerable child.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Yes, it is. Thank you very much. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I'm giving my details in chat. So if you like to know more about these things, you are most welcome to contact me. But as you know, Auntie Amma better than me. So it's better to contact her first, and she can guide you with our team. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Mdad. Thank you, Dee. I'm going to check if there's any more questions, because we do have an 8 o'clock finish. At this point in time, there isn't. So I'm just going to give the floor to you, Auntie Amma, just to say some last few words before we start winding down. So yeah, the floor is yours, Auntie Amma. Ooh. I think you've got to unmute first. Yeah. Good old Zoom. There you go.
From us all in this village, if anybody has any comments to make or any learning or which areas they want to look at or they want us to comment on or Saffron should put on, they should let us know, because there's a colossal amount of work to be done out there.
Yeah.
If there is a specific area that they want us to focus on. So the floor is open to everybody.
Okay. Okay, so yeah, you can also join from Facebook. I'll invite your friends and colleagues to join in. So we got our Facebook family who are listening in. Please feel free to join the conversation. As Auntie Amma has rightly said, there is a colossal amount of work to do. And, we can come every week and sit on the Zooms and then go away. But that isn't going to get the job done. We've really got to do so much more because there is a lot to be done. So, a lot came out today. We had the 2-house concept, we had our millennials. We've been talking about the millennials all week. Throughout the whole of May, we have been, talking about our millennials. Are they easy? No, they're not. But, we at Saffron, we come from a place of, there is nothing like a bad child. No child comes to this world bad. The environment. There are many causes. There are triggers. There are catalysts. There are things that change the direction of even adults' lives, not to talk of the children's lives. And we've got to think of, with the COVID and even pre-COVID, there's quite a lot of issues out there. Our young people are facing, a critical mental health crisis. So, we've got to think of the fact that if we can keep them, and what Auntie Amma rightly said, there's an identity crisis. Why should a child be stopped and asked where you're from, and you say, oh, I think, I think I'm from here, but I'm not sure. You know, I think that's down to the parent. I think it's a travesty. And, you know, it doesn't matter if you were born in this country, you know, you should know your history, you know. So yeah, this is I love how we call it a village, and it is, and it does tell, we have this saying, it takes a village to raise a child. You know, we've got to all come together, you know, and do this for these children. And it saddens me that children are either broken up if they're brothers and sisters, or sent to homes that they don't understand, you know. And as practitioners who were safeguarding practitioners, social workers, the onus is on a lot of us to stand up and you know, do something. At this point in time,
Please, I can see my son in the village.
You can,
and I want my son to unmute and comment.
Okay, who is that? Okay, has he heard you? Can he unmute?
Can you unmute my son, my one and only?
Hello, ma'am.
Ah, Kweku.
I like to hear you.
Good evening.
I know you are here to support your mom, but contribute.
Absolutely. You know, good evening and good evening to everybody who has tuned in to listen to the wisdom that, as always, my mom always you know, gives in terms of how we support the various families who are in the diaspora, in terms of how we look after ourselves and our children. And the point that is well made is promoting a positive image of ourselves.
Yeah.
You know, so I can't overemphasize that it permeates through everything that we do, that once we have a good sense of ourselves, and especially to go back to the Beijing conference, and go back all the way to the you know, how Africa was demarcated, you know, so that concept that we were united, we were one people until we were demarcated, you know, at the Berlin conference, would give us that positive image to always make sure that we treat each other with respect and we edify each other wherever we are. We pave ways and ways for each other wherever we are. So again, wise words from my mom again, and thank you very much for Saffron for putting on this presentation. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you, Kweku. It's so nice to hear from you. How are you?
Thank you.
Right. So yeah, without much ado, because we have like 4 minutes left, so I'm going to throw the floor open to Yemi, our executive director, to please just say a few words before we close. Can you hear me, Yemi?
Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
Yes. I just really wanted to say thank you to everyone for joining us. Auntie Amma, thank you so much for bringing your team to I don't know, it's the words can't, I don't think we could do justice finding the words. It's not inform, update, educate. There's so many words that fit into what we have been able to learn and what your team have been able to deliver to us, but also let us understand the magnitude of the work that is out there that you've been doing, but also that we all have to come together to do. We need to stop pointing the fingers at them not doing it, and it's about all of us coming together, linking our hands together and working together to make the lives of the millennials, as we've been saying all through April and also saying today, but all Black, African, you name it, we're all one Black people. We need to come together and do this work. Please leave a lot of information for us. If your team can leave information for us to post on all our media handles for people to connect with you, as we have and will continue to do. So I'm going to say I can't mention everyone who's joined us today, We have Saffron SDGF from Nigeria. We have Dee. She spoke earlier on. She's one of our directors. She's our director for safeguarding children. And we had quite a few people join us from Nigeria. I was quite surprised. We had Hajia Miriam Kolo. She is the director for children's rights in Niger State. So many other people. We had Paul Areva. He's our strategic officer in Nigeria as well. I can't mention all of you, but I just want to say thank you to everyone for joining. And Siama's team, thank you. Right, the talk we've had on fostering, adoption, fostering, is it not adoption, fostering? It's just fostering, right? It's just immense. There are a lot of Black children who are not able to be placed in where they're culturally comfortable because our communities do not foster children openly. I like Dee said, and we had that discussion that maybe it's also looking at the red tape around all questions, demands, things that we have to be able to meet to have these children placed. So I don't know. Maybe we just need to bring that to the table more, break it down, and look at how we can support families to be able to foster more children. Anyways, thank you so much to my crew on Facebook. It has been a really great evening on Facebook. We've had quite a few people join us. Also, we will be sharing this on our YouTube channels all round. This is the first of many, and I am looking forward to so much collaborative work with the African Family Service, Antiama, and your team. I am going to honor Antiama and hand the reins back to her to close. Antiama, floor's yours. You need to unmute yourself.
To each one and everyone in this village this evening, and the contributions and the link workers who were able to attend, and my mother's and Professor Jane Lafontaine, and Dr. Angela, Professor Joe Finch, and many others who joined us, because I was salute to you all. I salute Saffron for giving me the platform to talk to you all tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Auntie Emma. Thank you. And that's just to tell you that Saffron meets every Wednesday. We are here 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. and we're this is the last of the sustaining families, but that does not mean to say that we will not be back next week Wednesday. Next week Wednesday we will be. Yemi, remind me, what's the topic for next week Wednesday?
Yes, let me say thank you to Jenny for a very powerful presentation.
Oh yeah.
Very proud of you, girl. You took us all around Europe.
Thank you, Jenny.
Thank you, Jenny.
Thank you so much.
We will give the topic, and I believe we're still deliberating on it because we have a bit of a clash. But I will also say that we have a one-to-one immigration engagement, Home Office immigration engagement team that joins us every third Saturday, and this Saturday is the 15th. The next one is the 15th, and we have the Home Office engagement and enforcement team who do a discussion, enlightenment, updates on all things immigration, but also have a one-to-one which you can request beforehand. So you sit with the team and lawyers, just yourself and the team, and ask your questions directly and hear it from the horse's mouth, so to speak. So yes, thank you so much, everyone. Please join us again. Don't come and leave. Come back next week. Have a lovely evening. God bless.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Good night.
Bye, everyone.
Good night.
Bye.